I don't even know how you have your leg. I don't even know how you're alive. I'm surprised you haven't had a stroke or a heart attack or anything. I sat there and I was like, am I going to die? So I, Hi, I'm Abby. And today we are going to talk about peripheral artery disease. Okay, peripheral artery disease, also known as PAD, is a disease that affects your limbs. So it's when your arteries get blocked up with plaque. It could be due to high cholesterol and all sorts of different reasons. I'm a very, very rare case. So before we go any further, I am not a medical doctor. I'm just sharing my story and my experience. So please, if you have any medical concerns, questions, things like that, you need to talk to your doctor. And always remember to be persistent. If you feel that something is wrong, go to another doctor and another one, and however that you can get that help. But my situation is rare, and so I'm not trying to put fear in anybody or anything. I just want to help spread awareness because this disease I think doesn't have a lot of awareness, and it is a silent killer. So with that being said, like I said, it does affect your veins, arteries, and it can cause heart attack and stroke and death. Also amputation of the affected limb. With me, I'm a rare case because when I unknowingly started showing signs of it when I was 37. Typical cases, people that are 50 plus, 60 plus, who smoke, have diabetes, poor diet, and don't exercise, not a very active lifestyle. So and it's hereditary. It can be hereditary. So those are your label of what a patient would be like that looks like that has this disease. I obviously don't meet that criteria. My pain started with the toes, and so it's an interesting situation of how this all unraveled. So normally PAD it'll have like short-term pain when you're using that limb. So for me specifically, I started noticing pain in my toe on my right leg. So my right leg is the naughty leg. We call it the naughty leg because it just acted up and got all naughty, had to be sawed into, fun things like that. So, and I also don't have any of the risk factors. I don't have diabetes. I am very active and I'm pretty healthy. Even up until then, I'm pretty healthy. So I was young, so it was kind of rare or is rare for me to have it. And then I got it really bad, but we'll go into why. So, because that could have been preventable with awareness in the medical field. So let's dial it back to April of 2018, very involved in the community and would go to community outings. And so it was very physically active. So I would be out at events all day, standing, hauling, lifting boxes, stuff like that. I was at an event in April, and it was a big party and that I coordinated. And I just noticed that, like, man, I really have this pain in my toe, like in between my toe. And it felt like there was a rock. I mean, I know it wasn't a rock, but that was about how well I could describe it. It was like a pebble in between my middle center toes. I was like, okay, I have it on my feet all day because when I would host these events, I would be busy all day from dawn to dusk. And so I was like, it's probably because I've just been on my feet all day. Well, it kept hurting and hurting and hurting. So, talking to some people and stuff, they're like, oh, it might be Morton's neuroma or, something else with the foot. So I was like, all right, cool, no worries. I'll go to a foot doctor. I go to the foot doctor. He was like, oh, you just need to change your shoes. And so that's when I started wearing Brooks, which I love Brooks. They're fantastic. I just got a new pair of shoes and the pain just kept going. Now, insider information of what I didn't know, it turned out that pain in my toe was a blood clot. Okay, so everybody, let's make a mental note of that past Abby doesn't know this, but that was a blood clot. So in a nutshell, so that blood clot or pain or a little pebble in my shoe that I'm being told is like, oh, it's just, whatever, you gotta wear better shoes, started to spread and grow, and it started going all over my body unknowingly. And so it started creeping up my right leg, and I would start getting pain in my ankle, and then it started doing in my calf. It was totally weird. My foot would start going bluish, ashy color, but the pain in the calf. So when you have symptoms of PAD, you will walk like a short distance, very, very short, and you'll get this cramp, almost like a Charlie horse or something in your calf, but it'll immediately go away at rest. So right when you sit down, it's gone. So that was going on constantly. And I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't getting better. And y'all, I lived with this pain for 3 years. So again, if we're just instead of going on about every detail from 2018 until 2020, it was not fun. And as time went on, it got worse because it just started wrecking my body inside. Because I was going undiagnosed and then misdiagnosed because I started with the foot doctor. I had a total of 7 doctors that I went to between 2018 and November of 2020. And then December of 2020 is when I found the 8th doctor, which was my last good doctor. And that's who I have. So it was getting worse. It got so bad that I would be sitting at my desk and my whole leg would be ashy blue, shiny, things like that. Like my toenails wouldn't grow or anything. And I'm like, yeah, I'm an art major, so I'm not a doctor, so I'm just gonna be like, okay, this can't be right. Like, I know I'm not a doctor, but this is messed up. So I went to so many, and this is previously before it was getting really, really bad. I was going to I had needling done. I was going to a doctor for that because I thought it was muscular. I was going to a sports medicine place that thought it was muscular, and so they were like giving me sports massages on this leg so what was happening, my veins were all clogging up, like all bad. And it was getting all the way up to my intestines. So it's going up my groin and close to my intestines, which is a very, very, very bad deal. I just kept going because I'm the type of person that's like, I got a job to do. I really love my job. And so I'm just going to keep going and, we'll figure this out. No problem. I spent so much money. I mean, I had insurance and stuff, which was great, but you still have to pay for certain procedures and things. You have your deductible and whatever extra if it's a specialized doctor. Went to so many doctors, and I had one doctor in particular. I will never forget this until the day I leave this planet. And she sat me down, and she was, not the nicest. You fill in whatever words you'd like to. She was not the nicest. She just seemed like I was bothering her. And I remember I went into the room, and she comes in and she sits down and she's like, okay, so why are you here? And I was like, oh my gosh, if you're here, who's running hell? I go, well, I'm having this pain and it was bad and it's a calf and stuff. And no joke. She looked at me and she goes, well, it's not vascular. If it was vascular, you would have no leg by now. And so it's not that. You'd have gangrene and everything. So of course at the time I'm like, okay, she's a doctor. Surprise, it was vascular. So if I would have listened to her, I would not be here filming this video. Like I said, 7 doctors. And so the last one in particular, he was so puzzled because we did everything. I had like scans on my back and MRIs and everything. You name it, I went through the ringer to figure out, and nobody saw anything. If there is a medical professional out there, like, I don't get how you can do a CT scan with contrast on my lower extremities and not see that my veins were completely blocked and I was getting no blood flow in my right leg. I'm still baffled by that. And maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I'm not a pro in this stuff. I don't know, I'm not going to pretend to know something, but that to me doesn't add up. So that's what really, really confused me. I was like, how did nobody see this? X-rays, everything. So my last doctor that I went to, I also called him after everything went through and I was done with my first bypass, and I told him and I thanked him for his due diligence and him really being puzzled by it, and I did actually call the other doctors and just educate them about it. No, and I know what's everybody's going to come to their mind after I tell you the full story. I know exactly what's going to come to your mind, like, oh, you should sue them and blah, blah, blah. No, it's educating, and it's also education of don't put labels on diseases Don't say, oh, it can't be. I'm going to rule this out because she's 37, because she's 38, because she's 39. Don't rule that out, because diseases are going to do whatever they want to do. And I don't even have any of the risk factors. So that's why I'm a very rare case. So the last doctor I went to, I was telling him, and he was like puzzled. Like, he really wanted to figure out, he knew I was in pain all the time. He was like, I want you to go over to Dallas and I want you to meet this sports medicine doctor in Dallas. And I was like, all right, yeah, cool. No worries, because nothing else is working. And at this point, I thought I just had to live like this. Like, this is my life. Here we are. And I have so much other things to be grateful for. So, I got to have something that's not working out right. So this must be it. Y'all, it got so bad that I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't be laying down. Now, remember, there's no blood flow. So the pain is excruciating. And so I had to sit up. Like, I slept in my leather recliner because I couldn't sleep laying down. So I rarely slept. Still going to work, still kicking it, doing everything, just living. And then I was also started riding my bike because obviously the pandemic occurred. Everybody shut down March of 2020. And so I rode my bike. And the pain, oh my gosh, there was times I felt like my ankle was going to explode, this right leg and everything. But turns out, like we were talking about, things that I didn't know then, but I know now, it was actually helping. And riding my bike actually saved my leg and my life unknowingly. And also in 2019, I started having a lot of breathing issues, heart palpitations. Something ain't right with the ticker. Like, something's going on here. And that's because this disease just festered in me. It just was like, yeah, we're roaming free in this lady's body. So we're just going to tear shit up. That's kind of what happened. And I did go to a cardiologist. They were like, okay, you have PVCs, which means that your heart will beat, which is pretty normal. And your heart beats like kind of opposite one chamber to another instead of whatever the proper bottom to top or top to bottom, whatever it is. But it can cause like shortness of breath and bad heart palpitations and things. That was kind of the start of like, all right. And then I was still seeing doctors about getting everything else figured out on what was going on. So going back to the last doctor, he's like, go see my friend in Dallas. And I drove over to Dallas and met this guy. Walked in, I was in his office. He had like the athletic table, and I was in there for 5 minutes. I don't even think it was 5 minutes. He goes, lay up on the table. And right when I got up the table, my leg went absolutely gray. He goes, get up, get off the table. He's like, this is vascular, and you need to go see a vascular surgeon like now. Also, too, little food for thought. I have never had anything but a cavity. So I have never been in the hospital. I don't even like hospitals. I am so anti-needle. I am a big chicken. So I go over, they make the appointment like immediately. And I go over to UT Southwestern. And those aren't from the DFW area. UT Southwestern is one of the best hospitals in Texas. And so I go over there and they're like, okay, we're going to do a brachial test, and that's the regular test that I get done. And that's the test you can ask your doctor to give you for you to test for this. So what they do is they lay you down and they check the blood, they put blood pressure cuffs all over you and they test the blood flow. They do the like sonogram thing on your leg. I'm laying there, and this is another one of those moments that will be ingrained. And excuse me if I get a little emotional about it. So I was laying there, and they, the right leg, they would turn up the microphone. So when they did my arms and they did the left leg, they would have the speaker up, microphone or whatever, but the speaker up. So you could hear your heartbeat, you could hear your pulse. And then they went to the right leg, and I'm laying there. And again, I'm not a medical profession, but I'm also not a dumbass. I didn't hear any heartbeat, like nothing came across the speaker. And she didn't move to adjust anything. I was laying there and I just started crying because I knew at that moment, I was like, I am effed. I was like, oh my gosh. So they finished the test and they wouldn't let me leave, and because of what they saw. So they immediately called like the head vascular doctor, and she is absolutely lovely. Her name is Dr. Melissa Kirkwood. I went into the room waiting for her, and when I tell you that the scary, like the hot, scary part of her. This is the scary part of her. Like, she came into that room like a wrecking ball. And she had her assistant or with her. And she came in and she scooched the stool right up to me, just like this. She's like, I want you to tell me everything that went on from when this started until right now. So I'm explaining everything to her like I did with you guys, but obviously in more detail. I told her how many doctors I saw and what some of them said, including the one mean one that said that it wasn't vascular. She was very frustrated, and she was very angry at that, because if I would have got treatment when I first went and complained, if they would have figured out that that's what I had, I wouldn't have had it as bad as I did. Again, I've never had anything but a cavity. So when someone tells you, I don't even know how you have your leg, I don't even know how you're alive, I'm surprised you haven't had a stroke or a heart attack or anything. I sat there and I was like, am I going to die? And I'll be transparent with you. I think sharing things like this is healthy because someone out there might be struggling too. But I struggled with my mental health in my past and everything. At that time, so much of that stuff came up because the first thing I said was like, oh my God, I want to live. So if that makes sense to you, I'm not going to go any further into that. But at one time being in a place where, I didn't feel the best about myself. But at that moment saying that, oh my God, I'm going to die. I don't want to die. I started crying, and she was like, I'm going to take care of you. We're going to fix this. Okay. We're going to fix this. I had to obviously tell my job, tell loved ones. Yeah. And it was tough too, because then there was the pandemic. So this was December of 2020, and I'm sorry if my timeline, if I confused anybody. That was after I saw those doctors. That was towards November, and then I went to UT Southwestern in the first part of December of 2020. It was really, really hard. I feel like there should be more care to help people with their mental health when this kind of stuff happens. You go from not even realizing it, the severity, to be like, oh yeah, you should probably be dead, and we're gonna have to cut you open, and you're just like, holy shit, what? How do I deal with this? And how much longer do I have to live? Told me that I had to have a femoral to tibial bypass. So they cut me from the groin all the way down to my ankle, and pretty much pulled my highways of veins out, turned them upside down, put them back in. That surgery was 6 hours. I mean, I was good. I was asleep. No worries there. But I was so scared. And plus, again, this was during COVID. So no guests, no nothing. Went to the hospital. Really, really scary, because the whole time I was so scared I was going to die. And I remember I did have an episode before I went to the operation room, because I have really bad anxiety, right, as it is. We were, me and the doctor with, the team, it was early in the morning. And they're like, okay, this is what we got to do. And plus, they put needles in me, and I'm like, oh God, I don't want this. And then someone came in and said, in case anything happens, we need to know if we can give you a blood transfusion, and what are your wishes, or what, and I'm just like, and I just got it. I mean, I'm so attached there. I'm still attached to everything. And I got up and freaked out, and I don't make a scene like this kind of thing, but I did. I mean, not really, but I just said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this at all, because I was so scared to go to sleep. They were amazing. And all of a sudden, all these people, all the staff comes in the hospital room, and they all join around me, and they all start saying comforting things and saying like, we got you, you got this, you've gone this far, and you've put up with so much pain, and you're just a trooper. And they were pretty awesome on calming me down, and so lovely. And so then they were like, how about, we think Abbey needs a cocktail. But they meant like a Twilight, so something before the heavy anesthesia. So they were like, yeah, we're going to give you a little something. So they did. And then at like 5 minutes, I was like, let's do this, man. They were really, really amazing. And they continued. I mean, they communicate with each other like, hey, this patient's very upset, very scared, and everything, which like what likely everyone is, and or if they are, they might not show it, or they do show it, however, but they spread the word to make sure that everybody's bedside manner was, I mean, I'm sure it would have been regardless, but everyone really was super lovely with that. And so the surgery did go longer than what they said it was going to be. So, of course, everyone was really freaking out when it was going on the 5th hour and then finally the 6th hour and such. And a lot of people thought that they were just going to take my leg. And I will say that I was trying to make the most of it. If they did, I was going to be like, okay, Halloween costume ideas, flamingo or the leg lamp from the Christmas Story, because I would have been grateful just to live. I come out of the surgery and I go to the ICU, and I'm in ICU for about a day and a half. And they do make you get up, especially when you have this huge, incision, and they do make you get up. So oh my God, the pain is so bad. I thought about showing the clips of the leg after I had my surgery, and it was also, I had like 47 stitches and sutures and staples and all sorts of stuff like that. So, but I ain't gonna do that. So they do make you get up, and it sucked, and it was lonely because it was COVID. No one can come see me or anything. At UT Southwestern, in their intensive care unit, there would be a 1 nurse to 2 rooms. She came in and talked because she knew I didn't want to sleep. I was scared to fall asleep because I thought I would never wake up if I fell asleep, because I had to be monitored in case the bypass didn't take, and bad deal. And so I was so scared, but she stayed with me the whole time. I asked her about what it was like working in a hospital during a pandemic, and she told me some sad things. I wish people were more grateful for nurses and medical staff that have to work during those times and such, because they're putting their lives at risk also. Healing went great. I healed at home. I had a home in care health person come in, and not long after. So that was December 2020. I had to have another bypass because it wasn't staying open, and I had to have another surgery in April. And then I had to have another one in 2020. I had two in 2021. And then I had to have another ballooning in 2022. And then I had to have another bypass surgery in 2022. So I've had the big one. Yeah, so 5. Yeah, so 5 of them in under 3 years. My last bypass was October of 2022. This was shortly after I met Shannon. Right after I met her, I was told that I had to have the ballooning done, and I was like, ugh. So I had to tell her like what a hot mess I was, because at this point I kept having surgeries, and I was like, there ain't no way I'm going to be alive that much longer. Like it's just not possible, because I was, and I'm sorry I let this part out. I had the worst case of PAD, and it's called critical limb ischemia, and it's bad. That's usually where people who have critical limb ischemia don't live after 5 years of diagnosis. I'm actually coming up to my 5-year mark this December, and I feel good. I feel great. And or they get amputation. They have amputation. So yeah, so I had to tell this beautiful woman that I knew I was going to marry her when I first saw her, that okay, this is what's wrong with me, this is what's going on, I have to have this procedure. And I was honest with her. I was like, if this is too much, I totally get it. Like I have to be on a diet, I take all these medications. Like I'm on several blood thinners, I'm on heart medications, I'm on statins. I have to take an injection, Repatha. I have to do that to help keep away stroke and heart attack. She didn't care. She started eating plant-based with me and started cooking plant-based and everything as our relationship continued. But so she was actually on a Disney cruise when I had to have the first procedure done, the first surgery. I thought it was just going to be that, and I was like, "Oh, this is great. It's just an inpatient or outpatient surgery, and I have to be there for like 4 hours." It totally sucks because they go in through my groin, and then I have to lay there for like 4 hours on my back and not move, and it sucks. But my lovely Rotary family from Fort Worth came, and they were there and such. So I had a lot of support. Unfortunately, my vascular doctor comes in the room and says, "Abby, I am so sorry. We need to go in and operate. Like, I have to be admitted to the hospital again." I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I can put this spray face on and keep riding my bike and doing all this stuff and spreading awareness. But I felt like I was like, my ship is sinking, like so bad. And I told Shannon, and I had to tell her when she was gone because they needed me to schedule it immediately. And so I told her, and we worked it out amongst each other's schedules of when I would have it. So the last bypass I had was October 17th of 2022. She came home and she stayed with me the whole time. I don't even think she ever went back to her house after that. She was great. She packed a go bag. She did everything. Like, she did her research. I feel like I don't deserve her, but I'm so grateful for her. And she makes me so happy. And I believe that your lifestyle, like who your partner is or your job and stuff, makes a big difference on when it comes to your health. And she definitely was a prescription I needed and that wasn't known to prescribe. And I can go on and gush about her, but I'll save you all that. It's important to evaluate your job. And looking back and now no longer being in that job and line of work or industry, they don't know what caused it. They sometimes think it's muscular or stress, or I mean, because I'm so rare, so they have no idea. That they're like, I don't know how you got this. This is crazy. Because again, it doesn't run in my family, no diabetes and things like that. So no, smoking, nothing. I now 100% believe that it was brought on by stress, because of my job and the environment and things like that, and things that I would let myself get wrapped into and such. And I'm not perfect all the time either, but we're so tied into let's call it the golden handcuffs, like, oh, my income is great and the benefits are great and everything. So I'm like, yeah, I don't want to jeopardize anything, but it almost cost me my life. It was just hard, and I don't want to go into more of that detail. I mean, if you have questions, please ask anything you want. That's totally fine. I like to be transparent. I believe in, transparency is key because that helps educate others regardless of what it may be. So I haven't had any surgeries. And also, again, change my diet. So I primarily am plant-based. I do enjoy a good treat now and then. It's hard because I love like wings and every once in a while, if it's very, very limited. So if it's like once every whatever, it's not going to kill me. So I'm fine. Because like I said, so I take a lot of medications and an injection and stuff, part of it. So diet, and then like I said, riding my bike saved my life. So I grew very, really attached to my bike after I was get told that news. And so I would ride all the time. Now here in Puerto Vallarta, I did bring my bike, but they don't have the trails they did in Fort Worth, and where I could ride 30, 40 miles and such. But I do get to get on it and ride around, but I do walk a lot, and walking is great too. So I do have pain. I'll always have pain. It can be worse at night after doing a lot of activity and things. So I also don't really like pain meds. And of course, having this disease, I had access to all of the strong pain meds, which I have had people in my life who have abused those medications. And so I am not for them. And I don't think that they are beneficial. And also they made me sick. And that's how people get addicted because of that. So I take how do I say this? Well, I eat them, and they are actually vegan, and they do come from a plant. That I take them at night, and it helps me sleep and things like that, and it helps reduce the pain and everything. So that is a healthy way for me to do pain management. With all this being said, what is it like moving to another country when you have all this? Because obviously you need to get insurance and stuff like that. So, well, luckily I had life insurance. First off, let's talk about that. So luckily I had life insurance before I was diagnosed. So I was very grateful for that, because I can't imagine what I'd be paying if I, had that after. Same thing with insurance. So after I left my job, I didn't have insurance. And so Shan was able to take care of a lot of that. And then moving here, we got Geo Blue, and they went ahead, even though all of my stuff, they got us a plan. It's expensive. It's not completely outrageous, but it is expensive. But that way, if I have to get admitted to a hospital and have surgery, I'm taken care of. So that's good. Now, we're living in another country, the prescriptions are not covered under insurance. With that being said, all of my pill form medications are not that expensive. So it's about the same amount it would be with insurance in the United States. So that's good. So I would say before you move, I would check into all of this, because you need to make sure that if something is to happen, so if you have a disease or other medical situation, you really need to do your homework and find out what does it look like to get your meds all the time, see doctors. What if there's an emergency? How is that going to look? What the cost of it's going to be, and just to be prepared. And then the only medication, so like I said, we were able to find everything, and you don't have to get a script from a doctor or anything. We literally walked into a pharmacy. We showed them what we needed. They're like, here you go. And I got everything. And like I said, that's blood thinners, heart pills, statins, like not a problem. And the only one that was really hard to find and it is expensive is my Repatha stick. So Repatha is a newer drug. And I think it's only like 5 years old. I could be wrong, but I know it's definitely under 10. Still newer. There's not a generic for it and yet. And so it is expensive. So I had insurance obviously when I had my job back up in the States. So I would get, so I only have to do it every other week, so twice a month. And so I would get a whole 6-month supply and whatever. And I think it was like $50 or whatever. So there was 2 syringes in each box. Down here, we found a pharmacy that has them. So I actually I WhatsApp him and I say, hey, I need another box of this. And he's like, okay, no problem. So I have to go down there and pay him first, and then he orders it, and then I go and pick it up when it comes in. So I paid for 2, so I have to get 2 boxes, because down here, like I said, there's only 1 injection in a box instead of 2. And I pay about little under $250 per injection. So US. So when I pay him, it's like 9,500 pesos. And so that's what I pay for 2. But the nice thing is too, that if I do have issues, the type of insurance we have, if I'm in the States or if I wanted to fly back up to the States, I can use that insurance up there and I can go back to UT Southwestern. So yeah, so that's what's so important, is to make sure that when you do make these big moves to another country, that you really figure out what it looks like for your medical needs. You can afford what you need to do to take care of yourself and continue those meds or treatments or whatever you have to have done, that you get insurance that will work for you. And also that you can afford. Things have been great. Like I said, I walk a lot here. I do have a gym membership here. There isn't Anytime Fitness, so I do that. I walk the dogs. I ride my bike. So I'm staying very, very active. And there are vegan options and everything. And but every once in a while, I like to try certain things. And so we have a friend that has a bar here, which is fantastic. And I'm actually wearing my new hat from him, and I love it. It's El Rey's there in Versailles, and it's just a great place. Best cherry margaritas ever. And they'll smoke wings. So every once in a while, I'll be like, I kind of want some smoked wings. Anywho, that is my story. And please, talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to your doctor. Again, signs are pain, calf pain, and then immediate relief at rest, and just discoloration of skin, wounds that won't heal. If you're diabetic, you are a high risk for peripheral artery disease. So just ask your doctor, hey, I want to get tested for PAD. What do we need to do? Please fight for yourself. Those doctors work for you. It's not the other way around. So if you don't like what they're saying, keep going to the other ones. Because if I didn't keep going and finding doctor after doctor after doctor, I wouldn't be here. And that scares me for other people. And I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. I welcome all questions. I want to be as honest and transparent as possible with everything. So, because this, like I said, we all deserve to be healthy and get the answers that we need to keep our bodies healthy and to keep us alive. So keep your body moving. It's meant to move, and just even do little things a day, like get up, walk the dog, clean your house, get up and dance to a song. Little movements go a long way. So be proud of anything that you do. Even if you're like, I'm going to start walking, but I can only walk around the block once. Hey, you know what? You're doing a great job already. It's been a great chat, and I hope that you learned something. Please, let's spread awareness for PAD. Take care, and we'll see you next time.